Hey everyone. There's been a lot of questions about how to upgrade your gear level to 180, 190, just in general how to increase your eye level as fast as possible. And there's been a lot of really great videos about this topic, but one thing I feel like hasn't really been made is a priority list. So I'm going to go over that priority list, or at least what I think the priority list is with you guys, so that you have a plan, so that you can go into content knowing that you're doing it as fast as possible, or at least what I think is the fastest way possible. And first, that is the world boss. Every week you want to make sure that you are getting the world boss. The world boss can drop 207 eye level loot, it can drop legendaries for your class, and it gives you a lot of anima. All three of those things are really important to gear up as fast as possible. After you have done that, then I would suggest spamming the crap out of the Covenant campaign. You can do the entire campaign in like a day, and by the end you're given 190 item level pieces. The Covenant campaign is really important because it does a couple things for you as well. Along with the 190 pieces that you get at the end of it, you're also acquiring renown. As you're leveling up, when you are getting your renown, the only renown that you can't get through the catch-up system are the Covenant campaign renowns. That's renown that you're gonna have to do anyways, and the sooner you do it, the better, because not only, like I said, does it give you 190 eye level pieces, but you can hit the renown 7 mark really quick, which is helpful with the PvP vendor. The next thing I would suggest doing is the weekly quests that you are given in Orbos. These quests oftentimes stack with other things that you can do to gear up. The only time I would say that it's not worth doing the weekly quest is the world quest one, unless you find yourself short on anima. But the other weekly quests, such as the PvP quests or the Timewalking quests, are very helpful. The PvP quests give you a bunch of honor, which you can use in the beginning to target PvP vendor pieces that you're not getting through other sources. And the Timewalking ones give you like 200 eye level pieces. The first week, if you did like 4 mythic dungeons, you got a 213 piece. I don't know if they're doing that one again because that was pretty ridiculous, but those are things that you can do. The next thing I would suggest you doing is, if you are still trying to get to that 155 eye level or have a lot of blue pieces in general, I would suggest doing Timewalking Dungeons and raids when those events are happening. That's because if you're doing a Timewalking Dungeon, you're already going to be getting 158 eye level pieces, which is the equivalent of normal dungeons. You're going to be making progress towards that 200 weapon that you get for the event. But with the raids as well, there have been several instances of a 200 eye level piece from the Timewalking raid sims higher than 226 mythic level raids of current content. So there can be several good options that you can get here that can last you a long time actually. So highly recommend Timewalking Dungeons and raids as well. The fifth thing that I would suggest doing is PvP. Now, I'm not much of a PvPer myself, so the way I used PvP was I would PvE for most of my gearing content, but I would still do my PvP throughout the week when I had time, so that when I had enough honor and enough renown, I could easily just get the piece of gear that I hadn't gotten loot from in my mythic dungeon, and then I would just farm that piece of gear through the PvP vendor. That way I could not have really any holes in my gear. One thing I would also suggest doing, I know this list is already pretty long, but I would highly recommend getting Tourgas done, especially if you're a class that can do Tourgas really easily. Having access to a legendary as soon as possible really helps out. My most recent character, I was leveling a Vengeance Demon Hunter, and because that class is bonkers right now, it was really easy to get into content where I could farm my best in slot legendaries. And Tourgas is also easy for me. So I was able to get a rank 1 legendary within the first week of having that character at level 60. I think it actually only took me about 18 hours or so of playtime before I had my rank 1 legendary. And that helped immensely in every other form of content. When you're done with all of those things, or if you would rather do this instead of PvP farming, do an M0 World Tour every week. You actually get a lot of loot, and if you do the Covenant campaign and you also spend a lot of your anima on upgrading other pieces of Covenant campaign gear, when you're done with the M0 World Tour, you'll probably only have like 3 blues, in which case the honor that you've received from PvP is now very useful in getting those last 3, maybe 4 pieces up to 184 eye level. The last thing is helpful, but only as like a really quick temporary fix, and that is crafted gear. Now crafted gear goes up to 151, but I have known several people who were still sitting on their Heart of Azeroth, or they were still sitting on 100 eye level pieces because they just got really unlucky. Now you can just use crafted gear to upgrade that to a 151 piece and not have that holding your eye level back. But that one's mostly important just so you can try to get the 155 eye level threshold so that you can do heroic dungeons. Thank you everybody for listening to this video. If you found this information helpful, give it a like. If you feel like I over-prioritized something or didn't prioritize something enough, let me know in the comments. I've done a few characters to level 60. I know there are people who go nuts with this stuff and they love it. So I know that there's still a lot for me to learn. But I feel like this was a priority list for you to do that could help you. Consider subscribing as well. Thank you so much and have a good one.